I'm part of the IST Startup Week student committee. So a couple announcements. Make sure to silence your cell phones during the speech, but feel free to keep on tweeting using it. We're taking questions through Poll Everywhere, the Twitter at hashtag IST Startup, as well as you can raise your hand whenever we do questions. At the end of the session, we'll be passing out stickers for your passport, and you can collect those. And if you don't have a passport, we'll have some of those as well. And again, don't forget to Instagram this, Twitter, whatever. And if you're not comfortable, there will be pictures be taken. If you're not comfortable with pictures, go to the back of the room. And so the speaker today is Rob Shutz. He's joined BarkBox, a monthly subscription service that sends treats, toys, and fun products to over 130,000 lucky dogs across the US and Canada. As an early employee in December 2012. He currently serves as head of marketing and user acquisition for the company, which is launching BarkCare, an at-home vet service that will be live in 10 cities across the US by the end of 2014. Prior to BarkBox, Rob founded the daily deal and meetup site What's a Deal in 2009. The company was acquired by KGB Deals in 2011, and Rob stayed on as a head of US marketing until joining BarkBox. Rob graduated from Penn State in 2005 with a BS in Management Information Systems. Following graduation, he worked for CGI Healthcare as a senior consultant, helping hospitals go digital before he ventured out as an entrepreneur. In addition to this position with BarkBox, Rob is currently an advisor to several New York startups.
Thank you, Evan, and thank you guys for all coming today. There's more people that I've ever been in the room with that have wanted to be in here. So it'll make it more awkward halfway through when everyone gets bored and leaves. Anyways, as Evan said, I'm Rob. I'm currently head of acquisition at BarkBox. For those of you that don't know, a monthly box of treats and toys that we send to dog parents across the U.S. People seem to like their dogs right now, so it's a good business to be in. And the at-home vet care that we're launching is kind of like Uber for vets. So if you have a sick visit, if you need your monthly vaccinations, etc., you can have a vet to your home 24 hours a day. We're live in New York right now. We're going to be launching in San Francisco next month and 10 cities this year. So it's very exciting, and I'm excited to be here to talk to you guys. I thought today we would kind of do a little run through on entrepreneurism and talk about my kind of fear-induced, terrifying transition into starting my own company. What's the deal? So I thought there were a lot of different ways we could kind of structure this, but I thought I would kind of walk through a little bit more nuts and bolts, like how I went from consulting, a little bit more structured, a little bit more boring, into like just trying to do my own daily deal website and kind of walk you through the steps of that. Happy to answer questions. I think given the size of the group, maybe we'll wait till the end, or we'll use the internet technologies with the Twitters and such as. Yeah, and then we'll have some time at the end. But I wanted to kind of demystify a little bit of like what it means to be an entrepreneur, how all of you guys can kind of start trying and doing your own things, and how that's kind of a very natural path that people take when becoming an entrepreneur. And I hate PowerPoints, so I only have fun things on the PowerPoint. Oh, wait for that. Great. So, as Evan said, I graduated in 2005 from the business school. I was in MIS, and I moved to DC, and I was working in consulting for hospitals, helping them go electronic, and that turned out to be a great job after work. Great way to meet new friends, whippersnappers. Get drunk on the company a little bit, have an expense account, and that was a great way to kind of start out. I met a lot of good friends through CGI, and then it started just getting a little bit more boring. I realized that I was not that big of a fan of the subject matter, like the sales cycle. I was building demos, I was doing some coding, I was doing some selling, and it was like an 18-month sales cycle where you'd go in and you'd pitch a hospital, and there'd be back and forth, and there's statements of work, and I was like, oh my god, I just want to go to sleep. So I was kind of starting to look around, or like, what can I do? How can I jump into starting my own company? And I had a friend, Matt, who also went to Penn State. He was engineering in '07, Matt Burnett. And he was in San Francisco at the time. He was looking around for different stuff as well. And so I stumbled on Groupon one night, and I was like, wow, this seems like something, even a caveman could do. So we decided we were going to do a little bit more research and see if we could set up our own, Daily Deal website. And this was kind of before Daily Deal. Everyone and their mom had a Daily Deal website. My mom had a Daily Deal website. I'm kidding. She's right over there. So we did like our due diligence. We looked into like, what does the market look like? How many people are doing sites? What does it actually take? Like, neither of us had really done anything like in terms of starting a company or figuring out payment processing or like trying to do marketing before. So we're kind of like, let's just give it a shot. How difficult could this be? Turned out to be difficult, but a really gratifying experience. So, I was in DC at the time. I had recently followed a lady to New York who I'm now married to, so it's not creepy. No, it's still very creepy. So I was no longer in the DC area, but we kind of decided between Matt and I and my other co-founder, Carrie, that like our networks were in DC area, so we're just going to launch in DC. So that started my 2-year love affair with Bolt Bus, where I was going back and forth every other week, and I kind of destroyed my body, but that's for a different presentation. So basically, we kind of just all about let's figure this out. So Matt was kind of handling like let's set up the infrastructure, and I was figuring out like should we go out and sign anyone to run a deal with us? Like are people even willing to do this? So Matt was working on the website. We kind of got a real ghetto version going. We started the discussion in June, and by July, Matt had created like, technically it is a website on the internet. It was not beautiful, but it was functional, and people actually bought from it, which was confusing, but great. So, Carrie and I really started like pounding the pavement. We were going door to door, like just walking into restaurants and spas and being like, hey, we'd love to promote your business. And they're like, awesome, you're just like Groupon. Like, how many people do you have in your newsletter? And we're like, my mom, my mom's on it, and like her friends from synagogue are on it. So, we were starting small, so it was really, really small time. We kind of sent out an email to friends and family. We're like, hey, sign up for this newsletter. We're starting a Daily Deal website, but we're better than Groupon because our deals are going to be live for 7 days, not 24 hours, and we're gonna love you to death. We'll bring in so many people to your business. And so we kind of lined up a few. We had like 4 lined up, and we're like, let's just go. Let's just launch it. We're like, we'll figure it out as we go. We'll do 1 a week, and what's the worst that could happen? So we were feeling really good, and we had like a couple hundred people on our newsletter. We sent our first deal, which was at Little Shop of Flowers. It was pay 10 for a $20 coupon to a flower shop, which is super sexy. But we got like 19 people bought the deal, and only 8 of them were me. So it was really great, and we were like, we've done it. Let's go, buy a house now with all of our money. But during that time, we kind of also started seeing like all these other deal sites were cropping up. Living Social actually, for those of you who don't know, Living Social, they're still like really big in the deal space. They're kind of like number 2 behind Groupon, but they had just launched the week before us, and that was really sad. We were sad about that because they're also based in DC, and so it was kind of like that was our jam. We were like, no, we're DC based. Like Groupon doesn't understand you. I understand you. Tell me about your problems. And now they jumped in. Like they had a huge war chest. They were able to spend a ton of money on marketing. So we were bummed about that, but there's not much we could do. And so we're kind of juggling this along with our regular jobs that actually paid money. And I remember the day we launched the flower deal, I was like giving a demo to IBM, and I like had to leave to go to the bathroom a few times. I was like answering customer support emails, like checking our sales. I was like, this is so awesome. And then I had to go back to our boring demo. So But that was fun. It was like just super exciting to be able to get something up and actually have someone buy something who we didn't know and was not blood related to us. So that was great. We also, we did not have the site in a good spot when we launched it. I manually created all the coupons in PowerPoint and then took screenshots and then made them into PDFs and then emailed them to people, pretending that it was automated. It was like, congratulations, your coupon is ready. And it's just like me, in my boxers, at midnight. But no one needs to know that. I mean, you can dress it up any way you want. So when we launched the site, it was just kind of there you could pay. There was no concept of an account or saving a credit card so they could buy later. We're just like, let's go. Let's do this. Competition is growing. We were shocked that more people weren't in the daily deal space already. So we just kind of started doing it. And we had those 4 deals lined up. I was going back and forth from New York to DC, and when I was there and I would sleep on Carrie's couch, we were just friends. And when I was there, we would just go door to door, stop in places, ask if we could run a promotion with them, and then people would awkwardly ask how many people are on your newsletter? And we're like, don't worry about that. Why are you so caught up? We're gonna give you free promotion. And so, initially when we started, we were like, let's just get it out. We really wanted to differentiate ourselves, be different than, we didn't want to just be a copycat of Groupon. So, initially the easy thing we could do without putting much work into it is let's just make a deal for 7 days. It also bought us some time while we figured out who the hell was going to run the next deal with us. And then we slowly started to, as we were able to devote more time to the company, build in some differentiators, which I'll talk about later. So we kind of ran into this problem of how do we get more people on the newsletter? And so the first great idea was, let's dress up in a banana costume and hand out cards at the subway. And believe it or not, it did not work. And it was horribly degrading. But a great experience also. I remember I ran into people who I went to high school with, and they're like, oh my God, how are things going? And I was like, oh, it's going really well. It's going really well. Do you have any food that I could eat? So, I mean, we had no money. When we started the company, we all put in a couple $1,000s. We raised, begged my parents for a little bit of money, and also a friend put some in. But we had no money to do real marketing. So we had to kind of be small and nimble, and looking back at it, it's not a bad way to start. It helps you think more efficiently. There's lots of companies that are like, we have $1 million monthly marketing. That's my new job. Marketing budget, we should be able to just crush it, and they just are so wasteful in their spending. So that's how I justify dressing up like a banana every night before I try to go to sleep. Then in January of 2010, so the site launched in the summer of 2009. We kind of were sputtering along, one deal a week through the course of the year. And at the beginning of next year, it's all right, I just gotta do this. If I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it full time, and we'll see what happens. And it was kind of based on fear. I was afraid, one, because I told all my friends and family, I'm doing this website, it's going to be awesome, and you guys should totally sign up for the newsletter and buy things. And I didn't want to let people down or, fail in the venture. And I felt like I needed to devote full time to it in order to really make it work. And I was also really fearful. In addition to that, I was fearful of kind of ending up like some people that I saw on the team at my consulting job who had been there for 10 years, and they were having kids, and they had a mortgage, and they had never done anything else other than consulting, and they were kind of stuck in their position. And I was really fearful of ending up like that. So it's let's just stop making any money and throw ourselves into this internet thing. It seems to be popular. So left the beginning of 2010, I was going full-time there. Matt actually was able to start devoting half of his time and was actually paying him. The great thing about Daily Deal website was we were bringing in revenue right off the bat, which is not always the case when you have a startup. So we were bringing in money. We were technically making money because we weren't spending anything. So I was able to pay Matt a little bit on the development side. We were able to stay really nimble in terms of putting together a new site, putting together updates. At some point, I didn't have to do the coupon coupons anymore, which was great, but I still sat around lonely in my boxers at night, wishing I could do that. And so he was able to focus more like fully on the tech side, and I was able to then recruit my other friend, Brian, who's not pictured here, start doing sales. He was like in a similar consulting gig. He had just quit. He was like working at Ruby Tuesdays for free healthcare and Salad Bar, and he was like looking for a new opportunity. So I was able to get him come on board, put him on a bit of a commission, gave him a little bit of equity in the company, because at that point equity is literally worth nothing. So that was great because now we had Matt like work on the tech side. Brian was going out and like being really aggressive on the sales side. Was able to focus more on like how do we build a listserv, how do we build partnerships, even though we don't have a ton of money. So one thing we kind of went to off the bat was we created this concept of like, what's the deal? Free happy hours. Every Thursday night we're going to throw a free happy hour at a restaurant or bar in the city. And the only thing you got to do is you got to just sign up for our newsletter to RSVP. And so we'd go out, like me or Brian, we'd negotiate with the bar, and we'd be like, hey, no one's coming to your bar on Wednesday or Thursday. Like, why don't we bring 50 people there? You give out a beer, like one free beer. We'll publicize it for you, and it's like a win-win. And it actually turned out to be awesome because the bars would get like Anheuser-Busch to kick in a half keg for that night. They would give away the product. They get a whole bunch of people to come who'd stay. They'd buy food. They'd stick around. We get a couple hundred people for the listserv, and it was like a good way to establish a relationship with the business. So we're like, awesome, we've done it. But we were still only adding like a few hundred people a week on the newsletter side. But that concept of free alcohol has stuck with me. If you want to get people to show up places and they're not children, give away a beer. And as we got more mature as a company, we actually established relationships with the distributors. We'd be like, we'd go to Smirnoff or Anheuser-Busch, and we'd be like, give us the ability to give away alcohol, and we will promote you as part of this event. So we'd approach a restaurant or a bar and we'd be like, we're going to bring 150 people on the Thursday night. The alcohol is already taken care of, 2 free drinks. Like, all you have to do is give the thumbs up and run a deal with us after. And they're like, oh, totally, because I can make the money back on Thursday night that I would potentially pay to bring people from the deal. So it was a really big coup for us, and it was something that no one was going to copy because it just took so much work to put together. Like, Groupon wasn't going to go set up a happy hour and like take tickets and check people in on a Thursday night. But luckily, we had nothing else to do, so we were there, and we drank a lot. The other thing I was doing at this time, now that Brian was kind of more focused on the sales side, was I just kind of started setting up as many meetings as I could. Like anyone in the startup community in DC, anyone who like had a friend of a friend who like worked at a startup or knew how to use the internet, where I would like get coffee with them, get a beer with them, just like start building the network. And later down the road, as we got closer to acquisition, that paid off. But that's definitely something I think is a good lesson across the board. Like always be hustling on the networking side. Like it's never gonna backfire on you. It's always good to have a network of people that you can go to with a question, or if you're trying to exit the market or you're trying to like establish a partnership. It's a free thing that you can do. You have to put in the sweat to make it happen. So out of some of those conversations actually led to some of our biggest growth. At that time, I was getting everyone who purchased a deal, I got an email about it. So I had a problem with email. I'm a recovering addict right now. But I would like look at everyone like, where do they live and what's their email address and all this. And one day like some guy bought a restaurant gift certificate and he was from Washingtonian magazine. So I just like reached out. I was like, hey, I totally non-creepily saw that you bought this deal, like we should do something together. And he was like head of ad sales, and he was like, yeah, we can give it this ad package, and it didn't really work out right off the bat. But then like a few months later, he called me and he was like, hey, my boss was saying like we should do a deal thing, and I said, I know this guy that does a deal thing, like you should come in and pitch him on something. And so I went in and I was basically like, we're the deal experts. Like, look at us. I'm wearing a button-down shirt. I'm an expert. We should white label deals for you. We'll make Washingtonian deals, and we'll run it all for you. All you have to do is like bring one deal every 2 weeks to the table. with like one of your existing advertisers for your magazine. And they're like a pretty big, well-established magazine in DC. They're like a higher household income, like higher quality type of customer. And so they were surprisingly down for that. And so we built out the tech and we created this concept of like Washingtonian deals powered by WTD. And so we were basically just working off of a revenue share. Any deal that they brought to the table with us, we'd give them half of the profits back for signing the contract. And in return, they also started promoting Washingtonian deals to like their newsletter of 500,000 people. So all of a sudden, like we launched one deal, or we launched on the first day with them, and we got like 2,000 new subscribers in the newsletter. And we're like, we're so smart, we just did it. We've made the big time again. But this actually turned out to be a really good blueprint for how we could grow, because at this time, everyone was trying to figure out how to get into the deal space. It's like Groupon and Living Social, and then there was like Buy With Me, and then there was all these little niche sites that popped up. And we were like maybe 8 months ahead of them, just like right before the explosion of like the Groupon clones came out. So all these publishers and all these guys were like, oh, should we be doing daily deals? Like, how do we get in on this money? This seems like free money. Everyone's winning here. So we were able to go out and kind of pitch that to a few different places. And so we did the same thing with W2P Radio in Washington, D.C. They had a kind of like deal site called Half Price DC, where people would pay for radio ads with gift cards. So like Smoothie King would run like a $50,000 radio ad campaign, and they would pay for half of it in gift cards to Smoothie King. So they're like sitting on all this amazing inventory of deals that we could sell really quickly, but they just like didn't understand how to do a daily deal website, how to set it up, how to like promote a newsletter. So basically, we did something similar with them. They gave us their full inventory, and we did a revenue share based on that. In return, they did radio ads, they did newsletter promotions, and they did banner ads for us on the website. So we were getting good at this like partnership idea, and doing it without having to pay a lot of money up front, which was really good. So we did it. So that was going well. I think by the middle of 2010, we had like 10,000 newsletter subscribers, and almost all of those were purchasers. So that was like really great. All of our competition had like 1 million email addresses, but only like 1% of those guys actually bought anything. So we were a lot smaller, but it was a lot better quality and much better hit rate from that end. So that summer, we had like a bunch of interns who were working for free, which was amazing. So we did the next logical step, which was to create a rap video, which you can find on the internet. It's still there, and it really haunts me to this day. It was a really interesting experience, but I figured, when else are we going to be able to make a rap video, and I don't have to personally pay for it. So anyways, you can check that out later at your leisure. It's really entertaining. People like playing it at work right now. So this was actually the first deal we did with Washingtonian. Ping Pong Dim Sum was like a big restaurant in Chinatown in DC. And when we launched it on the first day, we sold like 10 times the number of deals we'd ever sold. So we sold like 500 in the first day, and it ended at whatever that is, 729. So we were like, okay, this is good. Like, let's keep churning away at this partnership stuff. We now had a little bit more revenue we could put into some marketing. We started doing like very strategic newsletter email list buys. So we'd reach out to like there are a bunch of, one of them is called On Tap Magazine. They have like a newsletter list. It's like basically people who like drinking. So we went and we'd like promote our happy hours through them, and then drive people back to our site, get them to sign up for the free happy hour and enjoy the newsletter. So we'd make like these really small strategic buys. They're like a couple $100s at a time to try and, again, like build up the newsletter and get that going. So that was good, and we'd already done a rap video, so the company must be successful. It was around that time where we were kind of, I kind of took a step back and was like, what is happening? Like, where are we going with this? Are we going to make like a big company? Are we going to try and raise money, which I have no idea how that even works? Are we going to expand into different cities? So we kind of took a look around. We We loosely talked to some people in different cities who wanted to like license it and run that city, and then we were like, you know what, this is too complicated. Like, let's just double down on DC. Let's be a really strong presence in DC, and then make ourselves super ripe for an acquisition. And that was an important time, like strategically, to decide like we wanted to make an exit at some point, and it was kind of based on one, didn't really know what I was doing, which was a little terrifying, but we didn't have a ton of faith in deals staying as hot as they were going to stay. Like Groupon had just announced that they were going to go public, which is insane for like being a company for 2 years or whatever they were. Like all the press was so rosy, like deals are great and everyone loves them and this will never end. And it kind of felt like we were reaching a peak. And I remember talking with a really smart friend of mine, and he was like, you have to take a look at the trajectory of the industry you're in, the vertical you're playing in, as opposed to like the only thing that's important is the health of your company. Like if you want to exit, you need to look at, are those opportunities going to be available in a year? Are they going to be available in 6 months? Are they going to be available in 3 months? And I was not confident that a year down the road we were going to be able to sell the company. So we kind of put this plan together. We're like, 3 months, we're going to push really hard. We're going to like make a beautiful graph that shows us like making that's the wrong way. Shows us making lots of money, and we're going to like have a plan. I'm going to go around and I'm going to pitch this to people after 2 months, and we're going to sell not only like the fact that we are like the number 2 player in DC behind these guys who are like putting in tons of money, but we're like daily deal experts. So anyone who wants to get into this space, like it would be great to come in with an experienced team who can kind of tell you what to do. And things were really competitive at this time. Like Groupon and Living Social barely acknowledged us, but they were just like going head to head to sign up like really nice restaurants. Living Social was giving out iPads to people that ran a deal, and we were like, oh my God, we cannot do that. Like, where is this heading? So, it actually, credit to Brian, he just was super aggressive about staying on top of people. He was like, look, you don't have to sign a deal with us, but I'm going to come in, I'm going to eat lunch at your restaurant every week on Wednesday at 2 o'clock. Like, you don't have to talk to me, but like, I'm going to be here, and I'm happy to just talk about like your business in general, or like if you need help with your website, or like you want to promote an event that we're not even a part of, we'll throw you in our newsletter. So we're just like trying everything to get people on board. And it was kind of getting to that point where we were so close to the business owners, we could feel that the things were shifting a bit. Like there's only a finite number of businesses that you can work with in the deal space, and the big players were running through those so quickly, and they didn't really care. They didn't really care the way we cared. That sounds ridiculous, but they were just like churning out. They were running like 15, 20, 25 deals a week, and they were signing these guys up for bad contracts where they were not making any money, and then no one was coming back to their restaurant or their spa, and they weren't giving good advice on like how to make a coupon clipper into a repeat customer, which we kind of felt like that was our forte. We'll consult with you. We're more like marketing and laughter consultants, as opposed to like we're just going to sign a contract and then you get 1 billion new customers and no problems. So that was spilling over onto us. We'd walk into a place and they'd be like, I ran a Groupon 2 months ago and it sucked, so like I don't even want to talk to you. And we'd be like, no, we're different, like we can change. And they're like, they just wouldn't even have the conversation. So we started to see the indicators that we were getting close to the peak. Something was going to change, and we didn't know how that was going to affect our business. We didn't know if we could continue to grow at the same rate, or if we could turn this into like everyone's making a nice salary and it's sustainable forever type of thing. So we were kind of on board. We were kind of all on board for the exit at this point. So we started bending over backwards. Like I remember we like staked out James from Mimosa Salon in Adams Morgan. We like stood outside his salon one day, all day, waiting for him, because he was like, I'll totally sign with you. But he was never there. James was never there for us. And so we like just waited for him all day, and we finally got him to sign on, and we ran his deal the last day of the last day of November, and it like made our month. So we like really needed it so we could keep showing that like upward slope in revenue. So we were getting there, and then that's kind of when I started to try to cash in some of my chips from like all these beers and coffees and lunches that I had with people, like just, putting floaters out there as like, hey, a little bit of soft language, like, hey, we've had a bunch of interest in like acquiring our company. Like, do you know anyone else who's possibly looking? We want to see like what the market looks like. And luckily enough, we got in touch with three different prospective purchasers, one of which gave us an offer for like $1,000, and we were like, we hate you. And then two much more serious ones. There was one company out of Detroit that owned the domain name dailydeals.com, and they're like, we should totally do a Daily Deal website. Like, we already have all the organic SEO because we own dailydeals.com. So they were looking for somebody who like had a presence and could bring a team and help build it out. And so they wound up giving us an offer. And then we went and talked to KGB Deals, who happened to be in New York, which was 4 blocks from my apartment. And they were super on board as well. And so they wound up making us a much better offer, and we wound up signing a term sheet with them in January of 2011. So that was exciting, but then we had to go through all this due diligence, and they were like, what is this $10 from like 3 years ago? And we're like, I don't know. Don't worry about it. And they were like, no, we need to worry about it. I was like, okay, all right, let's figure this out. But it was much closer to like a public company than like a small deals type of shop. So there was a lot of diligence, and it took like 3 months, and then we finally finished the acquisition at the end of April. So after that was signed, it was just like a huge weight was kind of lifted. I was, in the back of my mind, I was really fearful that we were going to wind up in this position where like we've built this company that we're all really proud of, and we put so much sweat into it, and there's like nothing to do with it at the end. So we were just pleased that we could kind of exit and have the story a little bit, and it gave everyone in the company a chance to pivot a little bit from like what they were doing in real life previously. Like, so I was able to kind of move from consulting into more of like marketing and wearing banana costumes, and others were kind of able to get more into like the small B2C sales side and whatever. So it was really good for us to be able to get out, because it turns out that the industry kind of went on decline a little bit, and deals are in a much different place they are now than what they were at that time. So we were pleased to kind of move on. So I worked at KGB Deals for a year, kind of helping with that transition. They were not particularly good at business or daily deals, but it took me a while to kind of be able to let go and be like, all right, we've already sold the company. I can kind of not feel as bad when we're not doing things the way we would have done. And they've recently kind of shut down their deals business, which was a little bit sad, but at the same time, like, I was really over daily deals by the time I left, because it sounds silly, but it's every day. Every day there is a deal that you have to put up, and I remember sometimes, Mom, shut your ears, but I came home drunk, and I was trying to like write copy and put up a deal, and it did not work at all. And it was nice to just be out of that cycle where you don't have to worry about publishing every single day. So a few things that I kind of have here as takeaways. Looking back on the experience, I think one is timing is super important. Like in our case, that lesson about looking at the trajectory of the vertical in the business was really to put things in context, because I do think we could have grown revenue 3x in the next 3 to 6 months if we kept going. But if there were no buyers at that point, like, what does that really mean for us if an exit is really what we're hoping for? So I kind of attribute some of that of like, just start doing stuff. Like, don't get too caught up in the analysis and like, we need to have everything together, and it like needs to look beautiful, and we have to have like our PDF. It's like, just start doing things, and you'll figure it out as you go, and you'll definitely make a lot of mistakes, but that's okay. And I think that's actually a big part about being in a startup and being an entrepreneur, is like, you need to expect to fail a decent amount, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's kind of how you learn. Another is, I feel really, really grateful that we had Matt on board. Like, getting a solid technical resource is not easy, and having them on board with you from the beginning can be really important. So my advice is, like, if you can, really try and look for a technical co-founder who can help you with building out the site and design and all that good stuff. Since What's the Deal, I've worked on a couple other startup projects myself where I was kind of paying for dev work, and it adds up. And every little change you want made, you have to go back and you have to pay for it, and it hinders your flexibility. So if you can work with someone who can kind of handle the web or design side of things and help put you in the right frame of mind when you're building the business model, that won't hurt you. Fear. Fear can be a great motivator, and I feel like that was kind of what motivated me on the deal side and through the acquisition. It was just like I was terrified. You know, some days we'd put up a deal and it would sell 500, and it was like the best day ever. And the next day you put something up and it was like 0 deals purchased, and you're just like, I hate my life. What am I doing? But that kind of helps you work harder and makes you be smarter in how you analyze things. And I don't necessarily think that it's a bad thing. It can push you to do things that you wouldn't do if you were like in a comfortable, cushy position. Pulse on the market, that's kind of like whatever, as I was talking about with the trajectory. And then ambiguity. I think that's the biggest thing working in a startup or starting your own company. Like, you have to be really comfortable not knowing what you're going to do that day, and not necessarily knowing exactly where you're going to end up or what your week or month is going to look like. Kind of have to be flexible and nimble and be willing to take some risks. And that's there. I put that in another slide, I guess. Yeah, so just taking risks early, like trying stuff and being aggressive, I think is really important. And then you learn from it, you move on. And, you know, I feel like I've kind of taken this into my new role, like doing marketing and acquisition for BarkBox, is we just try lots of different stuff. We'll do 30 different channel tests a week, and most of them are going to fail. But hopefully you find a few things that look good, and then you spend more time and attention on it, put more money into it, you get more people involved, and that's how you kind of find the bright spots. So that's kind of it. I wanted to make sure we left plenty of time for questions. No questions? Great. See you guys later. All right. Can you push the button on your button thing?
I had someone else come and talk to me about entrepreneurship, and they said they did a lot of research. How much research did you do before you went into the couponing, I guess, industry?
Yeah. You know, we did a fair amount. We did more competitive research than anything, like see what other sites are out there, looked at the history of the industry. Like, it turns out that this is not a like brand new concept. There are actually people who had patents for this idea and ran these sites like in the early 2000s. And we actually wound up getting letters from those guys down the road that are like, we own this patent, stop running a daily deal site. And we were like, we don't have any money, so good luck. So we did a fair amount of research initially, and I was kind of always on the pulse, trying to keep my thumb on the pulse of like what was going on in the industry and seeing like best practices, what was popping up. There was actually there's like a daily deals symposium in Chicago one year, which is ridiculous because 90% of those businesses failed before there was a chance for another one. But you know, there kind of became this cottage industry of like daily deal sites. There was a news site just dedicated to daily deals. So we're kind of always looking at what was going on and seeing what was happening and trying to stay ahead of the curve. Yeah.
If you had one thing to do over again, or something that...
Yeah. Go ahead.
Like if you could do one thing differently from when you started, what would that be? Like looking back on...
I would have invested in Google. Oh, you mean for the business? Oh, yeah. That makes a lot more sense. I think looking back, like knowing a little bit more about the marketing side now, I think there is so much opportunity to just like do more with like programmatic ad buying. if we had done more AdWords, I think we would have grown a lot quicker. If we had been part of like early Facebook ad tests, we could have grown a ton quicker. We didn't have a ton of money, so maybe what we would have done differently is like identified that, gone out, got a little bit more money, and pumped into the business more quickly. Yeah, so we could have we could have been big, could have been a star. Yeah, 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 in the back.
So, I mean, it kind of is in the business, like, communication, where you use it, like, obviously, during your website, you kind of, like, bombard your emails. How do you guys go about, like, setting yourself apart from this?
So the question is, how do we differentiate ourselves from the other deal websites? Yeah, I mean, we were unique in that we were only in one city, so we could like focus really aggressively on being part of that community. So part of it was like the happy hours. We did these happy hours. We started a separate listserv just for events, which we kind of expanded into events in all areas. We did like gym openings, and there was beer there, and like restaurant openings. We did like a spa day where people could come and have like a mimosa and get a pedicure for free. That we put on. So being plugged into like the real hyper local aspect was pretty important. Yeah, and then the partnerships were really big for us. Like working with Washingtonian Magazine and WTOP. Like our competitors didn't want to do that. They didn't want to revenue share with people, but we needed that in order to grow. So we were kind of able to grow our brand by like jumping on the back and holding on to these much bigger brands so that we could go in and like try and sell a restaurant and be like, we're not just the Srinky Dink website, we work with Washingtonian and WTOP. So I think the intensely local integration is what helped us differentiate a little bit. Because then people started, then people were like, oh, Groupon's big, they're out of Chicago and they're in 100 cities. They're like, I like you guys because you're here. Like I've met you in person, and I saw you at the subway in your stupid costume. So yeah, I think that paid dividends. Yeah.
So we have a question on Poll Everywhere. The question is, it seems like you really need a network of people to be able to start up these companies. You need programmers, VCs, and marketing.
Yep. Oh, is there a question? Yeah, no, it's great job, Internet. Yeah, I mean, I think it's different for every business. We kind of were lucky again that we could lean on having like a tech resource that was super important for us to grow and to be able to compete with like these guys who had huge budgets. I don't think you have to have, especially now, you don't have to have a big team. Like if you're making like a physical product that you just need to kind of get it up on the web, there's a lot of easier ways to sell product now. You can use like a Shopify website or like something that's a lot more plug and play. It definitely depends on what you're doing, and you definitely don't need a VC unless you're talking about a really big company, and you're not going to raise any money from a VC unless you have some traction or a track record. So don't even need to worry about that. Yeah.
The company you're with right now, the dog treat.
BarkBox.com. Use code Facebook for $10 off.
Working with the same people that you did with the original website?
No. So it's a whole new crew. I kind of came in a little bit later with BarkBox. I was like employee 6 or 7. This is a new group of people and a little bit more plugged into the startup scene. I kind of wanted to. I feel like I skipped some of the steps of traditional startup where like there's funding and you get a salary and you have healthcare and you raise money and you like scale. So this is a good opportunity to kind of see the other side of it, of like how people more traditionally scale startups. So we've raised like a Series A, and we're in the process of like hiring lots of dogs to work at the company. So if you guys know any dogs who are smart as hell, just let me know. Yeah.
You pretty much went from deals to dogs. Were you thinking more
All Ds, only Ds.
Were you thinking more about the service or the market when you were with the company?
Service or the market?
Like, where were you more focused on?
Yes, so the question is focused for deals and dogs, focused more on the market or the service side. So I think what was different with with What's the Deal was kind of doing everything, you know? It was like the selling, like the customer support, like testing if we roll out a new feature, like taxes, which are still a mess, so don't audit me, please, IRS. So there was like lots of different hats that were being worn there. I think what is nice and refreshing is at BarkBox, I'm just responsible for growth. Like, how do we get more people who love their dogs to sign up for one of our products? So I think it was really good to be able to be plugged into all the areas initially. Gives you more context for like, if you're going to run a big promotion, you know, it's going to touch lots of other areas of the company. So it gives me more context when we're doing things at BarkBox. Like, it's going to wind up being something customer support should know about. And if we're going to sell another 20,000 boxes this month, like, we should probably tell merchandising because they need to buy the dog treats, etc. So BarkBox is a lot more focused on just kind of the marketing and growth side. Great. Yes?
What do you think, from your Penn State experience and your education, like what do you think helped you the most in starting your own business?
That's a great question. You guys have great questions. I think
Not just class.
yeah. I think I wound up. I was the president of the Blue and White Society when I was here, so you know, getting ladies was never a problem. And I think with that, it's ridiculous. I think what that kind of taught me was more about like some of the leadership aspects and kind of how you have to. You don't have to do everything, but you have to help strategize in different areas. So like when we were doing WTD, it was more about like understanding that there are all these different aspects to it, and like maybe having a plan for that. So I think that was helpful just from a structural capacity, because I would like run meetings and like set agendas and kind of grow up a little bit, which sometimes is helpful in startups, sometimes not. But yeah, I think that was good. I also took Intro to Entrepreneurship for 97G something. So that also. But yeah, I think just the experience and being also exposed to some of the tech side of things and like doing a little bit of coding, getting exposure to like web development tools and things like that. So basically, you know, everything. Great. Any other questions? Oh yes, right here.
One more like related to that.
Do you think you could have done something like this while you were in college? Like, I mean, you said, you know, you got these things from college and this and that. Or do you think maybe those couple years you spent, you know, in industry helped?
I think the industry helped a bit because I was dealing a lot with people. I was like giving pitches and like pitching customers, and that turned out to be a really valuable skill to have when I was like talking to 100 restaurant GMs a day. So I think that was helpful. I definitely don't think you need to have that experience to like start your business or start a website. Like, children have websites now, you know. Yeah, I think it just depends on where you are, what skill sets are required for the business. Great. Anything else? I can feel the enthusiasm building. Yeah.
During your time with What's the Deal? Did your competition ever do something that you went, why are we not doing this? Like,
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. I mean, they had great resources at their disposal. They had a lot of cash. The question was, did your competition ever do something? You said, why didn't we do that? A good example is that is like Living Social. I think they still have this, but they have a referral program that's like, if you get 3 of your friends to buy, then you get yours for free. And we're like, that's so smart. We should totally do that. But they were able to eat that cost and attribute it to their attribution or to their acquisition of 3 new customers, and we had no money. So, you know, we had our own referral program. It was like, refer your friend, get like $1 or whatever it was. So I mean, they were able to do a lot of things. Like Groupon wound up doing this. What do? they did this big sweepstakes where it's like someone wins Groupons for a year, and they travel around the country, and they can only use Groupons, like for hotels and for eating food and for like getting around. They can only use Groupons. We'll give them unlimited Groupons. And then they were like on Good Morning America and the Today Show, and we were like, that would be nice. It'd be nice to get some exposure there. So yeah, there's a ton of stuff they did. I think what we were lucky, being small and only in one city, we were lucky that we could just like change stuff, and there was very little effect other than the one city we were dealing with. So like we could make changes to the site overnight. We stay up like all night, and we're gonna like change it now. So like I don't know, if you share on Facebook, we're gonna figure out a way to like credit your account $1 or $2 or something. Where if you're in a much bigger company, it's going to take forever not only get approval to do that, but implement it, test it across 100 different cities and 5 different languages, etc. So sometimes it's better to be smaller and more nimble, and then you can figure out what works. I said something. I must have said something that offended you. No, it's sorry. Women walk out on me all the time. It's fun. Yeah.
How did you get involved with BarkBox? Was it like someone that you knew, or?
I was telling Evan this over a delicious lunch at Noodles and Company. Delicious. It was actually frustrating because when I left KGB Deals, I was kind of working on my own ideas. I had this one website called Chirp Guide, which was essentially, it was like TV guide for live tweeting. So if you want to know like who's live tweeting the Oscars, who's live tweeting this TV show right now, if one of you wants to do it, I have all the source code. And then I kind of realized like this is going to be difficult. Twitter's going to Twitter cut down their API access. They're filing for an IPO, and it was like dangerous to not only be doing that, but also like paying for the dev stuff. So I started loosely looking around, and I saw these guys, and I really liked what they were doing. So I went to just a career fair and gave Matt my resume, and was lucky enough that they called me back. So it was like completely cold. But it was frustrating because I like built this big network of people, and I felt like I could just go get a job now. But what I realized was I didn't have any like specialty skills. I was kind of like a washed up old founder of a Daily Deal website, but I wasn't like a marketing guru yet, or I wasn't like a coder. So it was difficult for me, and I finally had to realize like I need to kind of pick a path and then present myself that way. So then, you know, I kind of decided more on the marketing and acquisition side, took some classes, taught some a little bit, and then I was an expert. And then kind of just through luck and perseverance got in touch with those guys. And we are hiring, by the way. So take a look at bark.co/jobs. Many jobs. Yeah.
What would you say
Keys to marketing.
yeah, like expanding your idea?
The question is that what are the keys to kind of expand your idea in marketing? I personally think it's trying many things, planting lots of different seeds. Like the stuff that we did for What's the Deal, much of it is not applicable to BarkBox. And the same for things that are working really well at BarkBox, like we happen to crush it on Facebook promoted posts. Most other companies that does not work for. So even if you're like a super experienced marketer, you kind of have to come in and you like plant many seeds and see what grows out of those. So that's where we really focus, is we're rolling out like tons of different tests. You know, we're gonna do like Pandora, we're doing TV next month, we're doing like Facebook, affiliate, referral. We're just like trying tons of stuff, and you put a little bit of time and a little bit of effort to it, and then you see what works. So I think and that kind of comes back to like the not being afraid to fail thing. Most of those are going to fail. We fail a lot on trying new marketing channels, but that's how you learn and then kind of iterate. #key to marketing. Great. Anything else? Mom, any questions? No, you good? Oh yeah, in the back.
You left the industry
was super supportive. The question was how did friends and family react when left full-time job that paid real human money to go work on the website? I think in general people were like pretty supportive. I think most people knew I was not really that happy at my job, so I was going to move on to something. I kind of had this going on already. There was definitely some trepidation from some that like, oh great, you're not going to take a salary for the foreseeable future. Like, how is that going to work out? But I think overall there's approval. That's how I like to look back at it now. Yes, Dad.
Your philosophy of major decision you made, taking venture capital and giving up equity versus not doing that. That's a big decision.
Yes, and I appreciate our conversation beforehand about just watching from the background. The question was around whether to take investment to like grow the company or not. It wasn't like, I don't know, it wasn't that big of a decision for us, I guess, because I didn't know anything about raising money, and I didn't really have any connections to raise money. So like we could have gone down that path and like figured it out, but I guess it seemed like a long shot because everyone who I kind of loosely spoke with said you're never going to get any VC funding like where you are. Like you've had this company for a year and you don't really have a pedigree of someone who can like grow businesses, and VCs are looking to make their money back at some point soon. So that was never really an option. We did look at like how could we raise like $100,000 from an angel or something, but again, I wasn't super comfortable that I could pull that off at that stage of my career, so it made the decision a little easier. Great. Yep.
What was the timeline when you were building the website? You built it at some point. When did you get like opinions on the website, or what kind of functions it had? And then when did you decide to say this is when we're going to release it?
The question is when we decided to release the website and get feedback on features and functions. So I think the very initial version of the website, the ghetto version you saw there, we didn't really ask anyone for their opinion because we just wanted to get it live. We were more concerned with like timing and how quickly other deal sites may be popping up. When we did the website version 2.0, we took a lot more time. Hired like a professional designer and did a lot of feedback where we sent out surveys. We were like, what do you think about this feature? What do you think about this feature? And then we kind of took that into account because we actually had a user base at that point who could ask about stuff. Took that into account and then, did what we thought was best off of that. We kind of had this running list of like, here's the functional things that I need. Like, please generate coupons so I don't have to do that anymore. Or like, we need to have reporting so that businesses can log in and see like how many vouchers they've sold and mark them off as used, etc. So we had like a parking lot of here's the to-dos, which kind of Matt and I would prioritize every week and set like tasks for. But it was helpful because we didn't really design like our fully featured website until after we had been live and had customers and revenue, so we could ping those guys and ask them and get decent feedback. There are website tools you can use now where you can just like pay to get feedback on your site. I think there's like, was it Silver Gorilla or something? I don't know. The internet knows. Oh, great.
Do you like where you are now? And if you do you see yourself moving up or maybe potentially starting something else?
Yeah, I do like where I am right now a lot. I think that the difference this time around is the founders have like really strong pedigrees and ties to like VCs, so money is not as much of an issue as it was, when I was eating out of trash cans. Freegan, right? That's what it's called, Freegan. Yeah, so I really do enjoy where I'm now. They spend a lot of time and put a lot of thought against like keeping people happy, which is always a good base to start from. So like, you know, for example, all of our dogs have pet health insurance, and like we have a keg in the office every Friday, and like I play ping pong. We are hiring, and we play ping pong a lot. But like, you know, everyone works really hard, and we understand that we certainly haven't gotten anywhere yet. We're still in like hustle mode, and so trying to pass that on to like all the new hires that come in, there's this sense of urgency, and there kind of needs to be some fear, like some of that fear as well. That's like, this may not be around in 6 months if everyone doesn't like kick ass type of thing. So I don't think that I would necessarily like move to a different spot in the company right now. I think that may do something on my own in the future, but I'm kind of using this as a way to educate myself, like learn about these other things that I haven't learned in the past, and like get exposure to stuff I never would. So like last Friday we shot our TV commercial where I wrangled like 5 dogs together and we shot video of their butts because we're doing a butt-themed TV commercial, which you'll probably see soon. I'm sure that will go well. But you know, there's not a lot of times where you get the opportunity to like do really large ad buys like that and learn how TV works as a medium. So personally, I feel like I've got a lot of room to grow. And you know, my stock options don't vest for 4 years, so. Yep.
Where's your primary focus on platforms? Are you focused more on the desktop? Because now mobile's really growing.
I've heard that.
Focusing on, like,
The mobile is hot right now. Yeah. The question is kind of platforms, desktop versus tablet and mobile. Mobile is definitely growing as like a much larger part of our business. I think over 50% of our traffic, comes from mobile now. So we spend a lot of time like optimizing that flow on mobile to make sure it's a good experience, and that's actually something we're doing right now. Is a big push before we are on TV mid-May, like to get the mobile site at a really good place, because I think it's something like 70% of the traffic you get from TV as a medium is going to come on mobile, because it's like people watching and then looking on their phones or going on their tablet. So you know, we focus on them all, but mobile's growing, and it always impresses me how many people actually like type in their credit card on their iPhone. So that's good, I guess. You're always going to get lower conversion rates on mobile than you do on desktop, but the volume you get there is usually a lot more, and it's a lot cheaper to drive volume to mobile. Great. Yes, Evan.
So do you find that it's a better thing to go directly to an enterprise company and then later start up a startup, or go straight out of college and start up a startup?
Do I need to repeat the question? We're good. Okay, you got it. Okay. I think it really depends. Like, it depends on the idea and like the market and the timing. Like, the Deals site happened to work for us because we were able to ride the wave a little bit, and like we were not first to market, so we didn't need as much money to educate. Like, Groupon initially had to go around and explain, like, we will promote you and people buy on our site and then they bring a coupon, and as long as we get to 100 people, then everyone gets the deal, and then we give you a check. And we could just say, like, we're like Groupon, but for a week. And so there's definitely a benefit to like being a second mover in that place when you don't have funds. So I think it depends a lot on timing and what the idea is. You're going to launch your, I won't spoil it. It's got a good idea. We could all just stand here uncomfortably for a while if you'd like. That sounds good. Okay. Wrap it up. Wrap it out. Thank you. Thanks.